Today we're going to finish up our lily drawing here by adding all of our details. Now if you haven't seen part 1, I will go ahead and link that down below. I went over all of the supplies that I was using in that video and the techniques that we're going to be using. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into this one. Now the first thing I want to touch on is when I was doing my stem, I thought I'd want this part a little bit darker. So that's what I did, but now I'm realizing it's sort of like competing with the petals itself. So I'm going to fix that first. And I'm just going to take my Faber-Castell Perfection Eraser. Now this is a very stiff eraser and it works really good. Even though I've gone ahead and blended out some of this pencil, I'm just going to go ahead and come in, and I've just got my piece of glassine paper here to rest my hand on so I'm not right on top of my artwork. And any areas in here where I feel like it needs to be a little bit lighter, I'm just going to come over top and do that. And then we can come back in with some of our darker greens just to add a little bit of detail here and there. So I'm not pushing it like terribly hard, but enough to kind of lift a little bit of color. And I mainly want a little bit of darkness up here and a little bit of lightness here, and then I'm going to leave the darkness down here. But I need the darkness of the green around the stem to be a little bit more, and at the bottom, I think I do like that more. So I'm just coming in using this like I would a pencil. And you can see it is lifting a little bit up, but if you're using a good paper, then this isn't going to hurt your paper too much. There we go. So I'm gonna just rub this off and kind of see how that is. And already I like that. I like that quite a bit. And I might just get rid of a little bit up here where that kind of like smudged up the flower a little bit. I want that to be a little bit pinker. And I think that's better. And I might even just do a little bit here just to add some of that green into these, because you can really see the green stem coming into the dark of those. In there. So this works really well, whether you've blended the pencil out or you've put down the pencil on your first layer. I actually think this works a little bit better once your pencil's already blended out for some reason. So that's always a go-to for mine, or for me. Now I'm gonna grab, I think I'm gonna stick with my, well, we'll see, because I've got my darker one, the 907 Peacock Green from Prismacolor, or I've got that olive green 911. Now this was a warmer green. Maybe I'll stick with that one for right now. And I just want to get this little shadow in here, and then a little bit coming up here to kind of define this one. And then we've got a little bit from where this one comes down, and it kind of separates here a little bit. So we can just start to see that separation. But not too much. So just defining some of these edges. And then I'm going to take that darker one, the 907, which is that peacock bluish green, and I'm going to use that down here and just kind of darken just this bottom part up a little bit. and just use it to define a couple of these areas here. But again, I don't want this to be quite as defined as it was. So I think that's looking better right now. And while I have this color, I think I'm also going to come in and get some of this dark back in here. Because some of it did get blended out. And the pencil lays over this, since this is all blended out already, it's really laying over it nice and smooth. Now, if you're still getting some of that gritty, grainy look and you don't like that, you can go ahead and blend this out again. If there's any areas that I feel like I might need to. And I just sort of went over there a little bit. I'm just going to just pick that up a little. If I feel like I need to blend anything out, then I certainly will at the end, but so far this is laying down pretty good. And again, I'm just going right over top of those shadow areas that I already did. Now we used the blue and the purple before, and now I'm using this this darker green just because I think it's going to look a little bit nicer. We'll see. So I'm going to leave that for right now. And we're going to start working on our petals. Now, actually, before I do that, I did want to come back in and just add a little bit more of that green, just right up in there. Some of these areas just to smooth this out a little bit. And I can even come in, I think I'm going to pick my Polychromos white, just because this is a little bit more translucent than my Prismacolor white. And I don't really want, you know, this to be like super opaque or anything. But I just kind of want to just ever so slightly lighten it, but also help smooth it out, because I don't want to add any more color to it, but I hope you can see it's just kind of giving it a little bit more of a smooth look and a little bit lighter. Okay, and then we can always come and add some little like highlights or details if we need to after. Okay, so now I think we'll start working on the details in our petals. Now, these are the colors that we used originally. Well, I didn't end up using this purple. I mixed the pink and the lighter blue that I had. But if you picked a different lighter blue, then you might have still needed to add the purple for this transition color. Now, I don't know how well these are going to show up on top of the colors we've already got, so that's why I've picked some darker versions. And this magenta we will end up using because I think we'll need some of it in these areas here, and especially those little like dots or whatever they are that's within the flower. But if some of these colors don't show up, then we can always use these darker versions of them. And like I said, you can pick whatever colors that you want. Now I may just end up sharpening this first, that light blue color. So that's the Faber-Castell 154. Because I'm going on top with some of my details, I do want a little bit of a sharper point. And the Faber-Castell, because it's a harder lead, you can get away with a sharper point without it breaking. So we're just going to see how well this shows up over top. And it sort of shows up, but really not as much. Well, it sort of shows up. I'm gonna grab my darker blue. So this is the Faber-Castell 149. And I'm gonna see how this one does. Now this might be too dark. So I'm just testing it up in the darker area. And I'm just coming along and creating just a little bit of texture. And I think I do like this one better. So I think I will stick with my darker pencils. I'm just using a lighter hand to do that. But first I am gonna I'm gonna try my Prismacolor because there is this just light area along the side of each of the dark lines. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that in first, and then that way we don't risk, you know, losing this light area. So I am pushing fairly hard as I can to keep the point with my Prismacolor. And then it sort of just will fade off into pink. But I definitely want to keep this a little bit brighter. Any areas like on the rim here. So I do like to kind of go in with my lighter areas first, because sometimes we start, you know, getting a little too dark, and then it's hard to go back in and layer over top, especially with a white pencil. Now, if you find the Prismacolor is not doing it for you, you could always try the Lightfast white. That is a little bit more opaque than this one. Or you can always try the Derwent Drawing white. That's also a little bit more opaque, but it's also got a bigger point to it too, so you can't get it quite as fine. Now I am going to come up to this edge petal here. Now we still have to make this darker, but I want to make sure I keep my edge in there. And it kind of fades off. But there's definitely some lighter areas in here. Now this one doesn't have a whole lot. I'm gonna put a little bit sort of right along the middle in here. And then along this edge here. Pretty much along the whole edge. So I'm pushing fairly hard right now. Again, I'm just going to have some of this white kind of come up a little bit, and we'll layer some other colors over that, and same on this side. There's a little bit more lightness in here. And again, all of these like strokes that I'm doing in the direction of the petal. And I don't have to go crazy with the white right now, because I can, you know, come on top afterwards. I'm just doing the areas that really pop out to me. Yeah, I've got to fix that line coming down too, because that one's sort of off center. And I'm going to come right along this edge here. Okay. Now this is a little more subtle in here. So I'm really just looking where those lightest light areas are, and that's where I'm trying to hit this right now. And then I can always come over top if I need more. And especially for getting some of this like little detailed lines and stuff, I can use my Polychromos, or I could use the Derwent Lightfast, because I could hold, you know, a sharper point with those. Now a little piece of that white just kind of flaked off and it's stuck there. Okay. So I think I'm going to start maybe with my pink color. So this is the Faber-Castell 125. And I'm going to start getting in some of the pinks here. And again, I'm really doing some light pressure. I'm going with the direction of the petal, so this way it's sort of curved, so I'm going this way. And as it comes out here, I'm going to start going the other way. And I'm just doing like really light pressure. I don't need every little detail in here, like every little vein that's in the flower. I'm basically just looking at the areas where I need the color to be a little bit brighter, and maybe it stands out a little bit more. And I'm trying to get right down to the edge down there. And it's pretty pink along here, so like a pinky purple, and we'll come over with some of those blues to create that. If not, we can use that 136 from Faber-Castell. So I'm just trying to cover my artwork as I do this, and I'm trying to keep my hand out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Now, if you like this pink color and you want more pink, go for it. If you want more blue, go for it. If you want more purple, you know, you can do really whatever color you want. You could change these colors completely. It's just more about the values. So you want to have the right values in the right place, if that makes sense. So I'm having some of this pink come up. On the side here, and I'll have just a little bit kind of fading out over here. So because this color stands out so well, I really don't have to push very hard at all. So just push as hard as you need to. Okay, and I don't want to go too crazy with this at first because we can always, you know, come back and adjust that. Actually, I may even pull a little bit more pink down here into the green just to mute it down a little bit more. And same over here. Now, I'm just going to come back with my white here and just hit just a little touch in there. Okay, and I'm watching this line here, and this comes down this way. And here. And then I've got to put a little bit up here because it'll mix with the blue and create that purple. And I'm just pulling this color out really as much as I want to. And I want a little bit more down here. I'm coming right along that highlight area that we put in. And I'm sort of like scooching up to it because it's a lot thinner than what I had there. But I can come on this side and kind of slowly move that color over. And then I can come on the other side and do the same thing to sort of like close it in so it's a little bit thinner. And then we can come over top with that white again just to really punch it up. And if you're pushing too hard and you don't like the lines that you're creating or the detail or whatever, certainly blend that out. You can either blend it completely out or you can just like gently go over it. And I may do that in some areas that it stands out a little bit too much. And that's why I'm being very gentle because there are lines in here, but I don't need to get like every little line specifically. I just want you to know that, you know, things are going in this direction. And especially trying to get this color in where I want some of that purple color to be too. So again, I'm going to have some of this come down into the green just to help mute that down a little bit. Even though it's a pink color, it's still like part of the red family. So red and green, of course, are opposites, so that'll sort of tone each other down. Now I need to be careful where this comes, because again, I need this to be quite darker here. starting to come in up against this highlight. And I'm just getting a little bit more pink tone underneath of this petal. Again, just to help separate them. But I need that contrast there to help it stand out. Okay, and I can come back with my Polychromos white here, and I'm just going to bring this down and just help that blend in, because it's a little bit more of a like a pinky tone, so I'm just like glazing this pink that I'm using over top, and then I'm using the Polychromos to just make that pop a little bit more. And then really have that pink line stand out there. Okay. So I see this color a little bit here. So again, I'm just trying to go with the curve of the petals. And I'm just ever so slightly putting just a little bit on this side. Not too much because it is more blue. And then just a little hint down here. And I'm just glazing over that like green area as well. Perfect, I think I like that. And I may even just do a little bit down at the bottom here and coming up into some of those darker areas with this pink. Okay, so I think I like that. And now I'm torn between if I want to try to use this light color. Yeah, I really don't think that light one's going to stand out right now. So we're just going to go with that darker one. This is the Faber-Castell 149. putting this where I see the darkest blue color. And then I can always use it to get a little bit of detail in here. But again, I don't want too much because I want it to be pretty light. Now this has a really dark spot up here. So I'm still trying to keep some of those light areas, and I'll just put like a few little lines over them just to indicate. But again, even in some of these lighter blue areas, we don't see like a whole lot of that line detail, so that's okay. And sometimes you don't want to force detail where you don't see it. And I'm keeping in mind, these petals here are darker than these ones too, so I'm putting a lot more like of that blue in these petals. So keep that in mind as well. Now I may put just a little bit more along here, but again, not too much. And we do have this darker area here right at the end. Just really looking at these shadow areas under here. I want to keep that edge as a highlight there. So I'm just using that stiffer eraser. If I get a little too crazy where I'm putting those dark colors. So I'm kind of keeping this blue on either side, and there's sort of like a light edgier, but not quite defined as these other areas. So that's what I'm sort of doing here. And again, just following the curves of the petals. So we sort of have a highlight on either side here, and then it's quite dark here as it comes down. And then this is pretty dark in here, so I'm just burnishing that. Okay, and I'm just looking back to see if there's anywhere else that I want to add this color to. And I think right now I'm good. So I think I'm gonna just take this purple, so this is the Faber-Castell 136. And anywhere I just want to add a bigger touch of purple, that's where I'm going to put this in. So mainly sort of around some of these center areas. Just because layering that blue with that pink just isn't giving me the pop that I really want. And I'm kind of going, sort of glazing over that center area too. Actually, I don't want this coming down here. I want it sort of straight right into the petal, so I'm just lightly taking that off. Now there's not too much of this purple in here, but there is quite a bit over here, especially right alongside of our highlight. And I'm going to come back in with a little bit of that pink in here too and just kind of pink this up a little bit because I feel like it's a little brighter. Especially in that center. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sharpen my Faber-Castell white really well. And now the last detail that we're going to put in are those little like dark spots that are around here. But I need to have all of the detail underneath of that done first, because if I decide to go back over that, it's just going to smudge it around and look weird. So the last thing I'm going to do with this is just, if there's any areas that I need to brighten up or lighten up, I can do that. And if this doesn't work for me, then I can use my Prismacolor one, or I can try a different one. But sort of just a few of these harsh lines, I just really want to blend out. And I really like my Polychromos for that because it's not super opaque, so it's not going to really cover everything up that we have down. It just does a really nice job of like blending out some of these areas, and especially as a last layer, I really like that. You could also use the OMS at this point, but I want to keep like some of that detail in our petals. So that's all I'm doing, is just looking at some of these brighter areas. And again, I'm only pushing as hard as I need to get this to stand out. So especially up here, I kind of want to get some of this blended in so it doesn't look so harsh. But I really want that pink to kind of stand out too. Now I might actually come back in with a little bit of that dark blue, the 149 from Faber-Castell, and just get a little bit more in here and just kind of make this edge a little thinner in some areas. And again, I can come on top and just blend this edge out a little better. just trying to follow the shapes there. Again, I'm just going to come along that line and make that stand out just a little bit more, even though it is quite dark here. I might just come along here just a little bit as well. Now, this, I think I want it to stand out a little bit more, so I'm going to grab my Prismacolor and just see if that stands out even more. And it sort of does, but let's grab, what is this? This is my Luminance. This is my Derwent Lightfast in white, so let's see if this will stand out even more. Does an okay job. Just grabbing the Caran d'Ache Luminance now and seeing how this is going to do. So this is sort of how I, you know, do things. Actually, I quite like that, how that's blending out there. So I think I'll stick with my Luminance for right now. Because this petal has a much more blended look in some of these areas. I'm going to drag that down sort of towards the green as well, and I may use that over here as well, just to kind of blend this out, because I really like how this one is blending those colors. So just to really smooth that out and lighten them. Okay. Can I get just a little bit of the dark blue just right there, and even a little bit more on that petal. So now I'm pushing really hard in this area just to help get that light to show up there. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to take that Derwent Lightfast. This is the Magenta color, and it's this color here, and I'm going to put in some of those like dots and little things that I can see in the flower. Now these don't have to be super precise. I'm just going to try to kind of get them in, and they're not like little circles, they're more like little, I don't know, some of them are dots. They almost look like little triangles. And some of them are a little bit bigger, some of them are smaller, some of them are like less opaque, like these little ones over here. And I can go over top and darken some of them up. Now I'm noticing like the ones in the middle are sort of more opaque, and then as you get out to the outside, they're just sort of like a lot less opaque. Closer to here. Now these ones are darker, so I'll come back over top with that dark blue, and these ones are almost more like ovally shaped. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just sort of looking at the little shapes and stuff that I see. So we'll grab that darker blue, the Faber-Castell 149, and we're just gonna see if I layer those, how that's gonna look. And I really don't need to push hard with this at all. And I'm gonna come back over on some of these because I did push a little too hard on these ones. That blue really shows through. I don't have to get them in perfect. I'm literally just trying to see like what area some of these are in. Might do a couple little ones over here just to make it look a little bit more even. And now any of these that are more like purpley tone, I'm just going to glaze this color right over top. And remember, when I say glaze, I mean like I'm barely doing any pressure. And again, I can go back over top with this one if I need to. I might add just a little bit to some of these down here, some of these darker ones. Just a little hint, just to get them to stand out even more. Okay, and this one we can't really see a whole lot. We can see like one kind of coming up here, but I might do just a few extra just to kind of make it look like it belongs a little bit more. Okay. Barely pushing on some of these. And try not to make them in like a row. You know what I mean? You don't want to have rows this way or too many rows. Now there are a few in a row, but I am trying to like off center them just a little bit. And looks like there's one like coming off this edge here. And then just going back with that darker blue if I need to darken up a few. And I think that's pretty good. And again, we don't really see any in here. And it is pretty far up. So, you know, if we look at the other petals, I would say that one I think I am going to leave. I can kind of see, no, I think that's just part of the leaf there. So I think that's good there. And I'm going to grab that Caran d'Ache white. So this was the white that I was doing. And I'm just going to lightly glaze over a little bit in here, just adding a little bit of a highlight right around where I've put those dark areas, just to help get this to pop even more. So I'm not going over the dark areas, I'm going over like just on the other side of where that dark line is, and then on the right hand side. So just where the dark line is, and then on the right hand side a little bit. Again, I'm just using this to just come over and just make those pop and lighten up just a little bit more. I don't really want to add too much there, but I am going to grab that darkest green, that 907 from Prismacolor. And I am just going to get a little bit under here and then kind of feathering that down, but I'm going to do it in a diagonal. So a little bit less here, and then as I go down, I'm going to pull that shadow down the stem. And then just have a few little dark areas there, but I want to keep some light coming on the stem as well, just to show that the shadow from the flower would be showing on that stem. And I may take this white and just ever so slightly just come under there, just to get that part to pop even more. And I may just come around the edge just to create like a little soft highlight, just very soft. I am pushing pretty good. And then I can just come back with that darker green if I need to just blend that a little bit, just so it kind of looks the same as those. But I think I'm done with this. The only thing I would maybe do would, if you need to soften these up, we could go in with a little bit of the OMS, and maybe I'll do that just to show you how you would do that. Like if you find they're standing out a little bit too much, I would just dab this. Just dab a little bit off onto your paper towel, just because we've already got quite a bit of the colored pencil down. And any of them that are standing out a little bit, we can just dab and just soften out. So some of these lighter ones maybe. You know what, I might just even go over all of them, just a hint. And it might not look like anything is happening in the camera, but they're just like kind of pushing them back just ever so slightly, blending those colors together. And just helping them like not stand out too much. So it's just very subtle. And if you need to blend any areas in here, like if you notice an area's standing out too much, you can just go over that and just soften it out. But I'm quite happy with how this turned out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and make sure you subscribe and give a like and comment down below what next you want to see, and come back next week because I'll have another tutorial for you guys. Thank you so much for watching.